This is simply a public information meeting. It's not a regular board meeting or a planning commission, and our thinking was we'd rather you have the opportunity to come and hear everything and not have to try and go to all those 10 different meetings and piece it together. So that's why we're here. We thank you for coming. Thank you for many of you who have contacted the board and contacted our staff and brought up good questions and tried to help us as we put a pause on this project at the beginning of this year, and have done a lot of some of the questions that Volt has asked us. I think Volt probably is, as long as I've been on elected official, has been one of the most organized, passionate citizen interest groups that I've seen. And I think we've appreciated some of the questions that have come, the good discussion and dialogue, and we hope to be able to address many of those things and some of the research that's been done throughout this year. I mean, it's been addressed in different places, but we kind of bring it all together here tonight. So first thing we'll do is turn some time to Jason Norlen, our general manager, and he has a presentation with some of this information. After that, we'll go into a question and answer period. We will answer as many questions as we can. There may be some questions you have that we cannot answer, but we will definitely go and get those and either post them on the website or answer them at the next meeting. We're not going to allow cross-examination of our staff. We are impressed with the work they've done. We feel like they have been very responsive to this board and to the priorities and questions and harassment they've gotten from us as we've tried to respond to the citizens of this community. None of us are here because of our expertise in power or our training in this area. We're here because we've been elected by you, the citizens of this community, to serve, and part of our responsibilities are serving on this board. And we get our information from people who do have expertise and who have been trained, and we're trying to work together to find the best solutions to make sure that we have safe, reliable, affordable power in this community. So with that, we'll turn it over to Jason and we'll go from there. Jason.
Oh, thanks, Mayor. I'm just going to go over the stuff that we've addressed with the board through the last few months. Clearly, in January, the Heber Light and Power Board had a fairly large turnover of individuals, and you know, they've really rethought this project from the very get-go. So I'd like to thank all of them for that. Some of them have, you know, been with us for a few years prior, but it's been a long road on this project, and I've been through many different boards. So thank you. First off, just go over the history. So this particular project, there's been many projects discussed in the past. I've worked for the company for a little over 20 years. And getting transmission into the valley that is adequate and loop fed, meaning redundant, meaning we've got multiple directions to feed the power from. You know, I don't know how many of you were here in the 90s when we had a, you know, pretty significant fire come through. Town was out of power for several days. We were able to get certain portions of it back online, just so that people could milk cows and various other things. Since that time, the community's grown significantly, and we've constantly been working with our transmission provider to get that, you know, N-1 scenario where we could feed from either the south, up from, you know, the Provo Canyon line, or from the north, the Jordanelle line. And that's, you know, really where this comes from, is trying to build a power system that has a lot of resiliency in it and make things work. But this particular project started in 2012 when Heber Light and Power, through our planning and engineering studies, knew we were outgrowing our point of delivery substation in Midway. And so in 2012, I sent a letter to UAMPS, that's our joint action agency that we belong to, and requested a new point of delivery from the bulk electric system. Now that goes to Pacificor. They're the owners of the bulk electric system in the state of Utah. And that kind of started a process to where, you know, a lot of meetings, a lot of dialogue. And our 46 kV line was becoming inadequate for our needs. And so we were getting ready to rebuild a section of the Highway 40. And at that time, we also knew Rocky Mountain Power was planning on building 138 line. And so one of the things that's in both of our, you know, mantras is when we can share facilities, we try to work together so that it's possible to share facilities. And this looked like one of those projects. So, you know, Heber Light Power and Rocky Mountain got together, and at least the first mile of that line down Highway 40 was built to accommodate both utilities' needs. That led to us getting together to do a joint construction agreement for the rest of the line. And that joint construction agreement was completed in 2017. Along that same timeline, we were also working with, you know, them and their sister company Pacificor to get the point of delivery substation agreement done. So in 2017, we also reached an agreement to build that point of delivery substation. In 2018, the point of delivery substation was approved by FERC to be a point of delivery for Heber Light Power on the bulk electric system. And then also in 2018, the second phase of the project was completed. And that's the mile of line down 40 from Coyote Lane to roughly 1200 north in Heber. And it's about at that particular time that, you know, some of this was working in tandem with the new board coming into place. So the new board really put the brakes on and said, you know, let's you know, take a new look at this, get us up to speed on what the issues are, and let us start really learning about the issues that the power company has. So, board action today, they updated a 46 kV load flow study. So they asked the question, does Heber Light Power really need to upgrade that 46 kV line? And so we updated a 46 kV load flow study. So an engineering firm was commissioned to take a look at that. You know, the question was asked, do we need a new point of delivery off the bulk electric system? You know, that has been confirmed. The engineering firm also looked at that, and all of the issues and problems associated with our point of delivery, and confirmed that needed to be done. Also, we were working off of a load forecast that was done prior to this board, and we knew that loads continue to climb in our service territory, meaning a lot of houses are being built. You can just look on this street, you know, the new buildings popping up on 1200. Load just continues to grow, but the board wanted, you know, is our models up to date? Do we need to relook at that? And so we had Utility Financial Solutions do a new load forecast, and that's been completed. The board really examined why Heber Light and Power is doing the project with Rocky Mountain Power. You know, there's been many hours of meetings and discussions with the board and members of the board as they learned all of the intricacies of why the project was first, you know, why a board back in the day decided, yeah, you know, Jason, go and get with Rocky Mountain Power and let's work together on this. And so this board really has dove into that, and we'll go over, you know, some of the reasons and history as to why we're working together as utilities. Overhead versus underground cost study has also been done, and so an independent engineering firm out of Colorado came in and, you know, looked at the project and gave us costs through various portions of the line as to what the cost would be to take this project underground. And the board, you know, is still continuing evaluating the siding and the transmission line, and they are definitely continuing to work with, you know, project managers on this to study ways to mitigate the aesthetic impacts of the project. So I'll go into need and necessity first. You know, clearly this is a project that, you know, nobody in my position wants to do transmission projects. They're very costly, they take a long time. And so, like I say, this project's been on and off the books for this small little utility as long as I've worked here, 20 years. You know, this project, I can tell you, almost went in back when the Olympics came. We were real close to doing this 138 upgrade back then. It got revisited again in the 2007-2008 time frame. And, you know, and then it just got to a point where flat out we were outgrowing our delivery point. And that was really forcing Heber Light and Power to do something. You can't just do nothing with this type of problem. You know, this utility has an obligation to serve every customer that, you know, comes into our service territory, and we take that obligation very seriously. So, engineering study was done, and it was confirmed. Our 46 kV lines need to be upgraded. The wires on those lines are too small to pack the current that requires to run the system. So the proposed improvement by the engineering firm was to rebuild the 46 kV lines with 795 ASR or larger conductor to improve the capacity. And these are the lines that, you know, have to get improved, or, you know, we're going to have very long transmission outages. One is the south 46 kV line. So the other is the 46 kV tie line at the Heber plant. The Heber plant, the College substation, that is in the process of being built. You know, 2 miles down 40 has been rebuilt. And then also the Provo River 46 kV tie line. So those all are included in this project. And then, you know, they wrote some pretty stern language for engineer as far as the Pacific Core interconnection point at Midway. And, you know, I'll just read it here for the record. The Pacific Core interconnection is limited to by 477 ACSR conductor. By 2022, the 477 ACSR conductor will be overloaded during peak load anytime heat or light and power generation is offline. Anytime there is an outage by Pacific Core, the heat or light and power generation has to come offline because it is not large enough to carry the heat or light and power load. Pacific Core must be able to serve heat or light and power's entire load after an outage, since it takes time for the heat or light and power generation to be brought back into service. You know, so, you know, that particular switch rack and substation has got to get rebuilt. And that's really where we're at as heat or light and power as a utility. So, project is needed, project is necessary, and you know, staff here is diligently pushing forward to get this recommended work done so that we don't have any type of sustained transmission type outages. What's the driver? So I told you the board had Utility Financial Solutions do a load study forecast. So this is a statistical group that took large amounts of data, some of it internal to our loads, and they also studied population growth from a couple different population growth studies, and this is their upper confidence graph, you know, the top line on that graph, top yellow line on that graph, is the 49 megawatts that the engineering firm said our Midway switch rack is capable of carrying on peak. This year, this summer, we peaked at 42.5 megawatts, and that's what that second line is. So you can clearly see we've got a limited amount of time to get this critical pieces of infrastructure built so that we have reliable, you know, places to take delivery of the energy and also reliable lines to transmit the energy. Next up is the big question the board's really grilled me on, and that's an examination of why the project is being done with Rocky Mountain Power. Probably first and foremost reason that Heber Light Power and Rocky Mountain Power are working together is Rocky Mountain Power is our transmission provider. So we have energy projects all over, you know, the state and up into Idaho, over in Nevada, and we buy energy from energy producers. But we got to have a transmission system to get that energy to us, and Rocky Mountain Power is our transmission provider. So the energy that we buy out of a geothermal plant in Fallon, Nevada gets delivered to us through Rocky Mountain Power's transmission lines. You know, we have 5 megawatts of energy coming out of a coal plant in Castledale, Utah, and Rocky Mountain Power's transmission lines get that energy to Heber Light and Power and all of its customers. And you know, they are the transmission provider in the state of Utah. There's nobody else that we can go to and say, hey, we want you to be our transmission provider. They're it. Rocky Mountain Power also serves portions of Wasatch County and has a franchise agreement with Wasatch County. Heber Light Power serves portions of Wasatch County and has a franchise agreement with Wasatch County. Heber Light Power requested a new point of delivery from the North Rocky Mountain Power 138 kV line. So that was Heber Light Power's request to Rocky Mountain Power. What that did is it triggered a system impact study done by Pacificor, which required the Rocky Mountain Power South 138 kV line be connected to the Rocky Mountain Power North 138 kV line for the new point of delivery for Heber Light Power to be possible. So, you know, that was one of the key drivers for us working with Rocky Mountain Power on this line. Heber Light Power was in the planning process of rebuilding our South 46 kV transmission line and our transmission line on North Highway 40. So once we got that system impact study done and realized we can't have a new point of interconnect unless these two lines on their system get connected, we really wanted to get to the table with them and say, how can we work together? We're both building transmission lines. You know, we've been working together since that time to try to solve this problem. And, you know, Wasatch County, when we were working with them on franchise agreements back in the day, they wanted us to work together. They didn't want redundant lines where we could build together as two electric utilities in the Wasatch County area. We took those officials very serious, and we have since that time really worked to make sure that we don't have redundant facilities. And that when we do have to build major infrastructure, that we work together and make sure both utilities' needs are being accommodated. Rocky Mountain Power and Heber Light Power came to that agreement to build only one dual circuit line instead of two separate lines. And, you know, that's just the facts of it. I mean, that's literally where we're at. That's why we're working together. And I still believe, as a utility guy, that that's the right thing to do. Saves money, saves resources, and one facility does not make near the impact as two facilities to the whole community. Now, this is what we were looking at. I want to say about 2008, 2007 time frame. Summit County, Wasatch County got together, formed a task force, worked with the utilities, and started citing how we were going to deal with transmission. This line going from the Jordanelle substation to the Midway substation has long been in Rocky Mountain Power's planning. We knew they were going to build a line. Heber Light Power knew Rocky Mountain Power was going to build a 138 line from Jordanelle to Midway.
Where in Midway? Where in Midway?
At that point of interconnect substation of Heber Light Powers. They also have a substation there as well, right above the cemetery. So, you know, it was in their planning. In our planning was rebuilding our 46 kV system. And that's really why we're working together, is, just makes sense. Moving from there, the board got results from the underground and the cost feasibility study done by NEI Electrical Power Engineering Inc. out of Colorado. And, these are just the results of the study that I'll go over. Clearly there's some pros and some cons whenever you're talking about underground versus overhead transmission. Clearly the big pro of going underground is it's less observable, it's better aesthetics. You do have less faults on an underground system, meaning there's no trees, birds to cause any faults. Different land use. There's no overhead lines running over the top of roadways, things like that. And there is less maintenance on an underground system. The cons are, it costs more to underground transmission. It's cheaper to build overhead. Another con is it's more difficult and expensive to find and repair a fault, which generally leads to longer outages. And anybody that's lived on an underground system after an excavator dug it up, or we have a fault on an underground line, knows that those outages are typically longer. We can generally get on an overhead fault pretty quickly and find it and repair it. Very difficult with underground. Another con is it restricts other construction or other uses within the right-of-way. Meaning, once we bury something as critical as this infrastructure, we don't want anybody working over the top of that right-of-way. We don't want, farmers plowing fields, changing grades. We want to make sure that we keep our, coverage over the line. The grades aren't changing on us, and all of a sudden the line ends up 2 inches deep. So we more heavily restrict land use on those underground right-of-ways. And even though it's less to maintain an underground system, when you do have to maintain it, it's more expensive. Meaning we have to fly in specialists. It's not worth our utility to have the equipment here waiting for that type of stuff because it's very expensive. And that generally leads to us contracting out and making sure we got qualified personnel and qualified equipment doing those diagnostics.